So mind in the Dantian. So this, I've got my thumb in my navel, the fingers sort of pressing in a bit underneath. So I'm trying to get the feeling that my navel area is sort of collapsing in on itself, and that will make the sacral area expand. And the feeling that my sacrum is just dropping down, which if anything is giving a slight lift to the Dantian. And this feeling that my Dantian is sort of drifting towards the back, coming further and further in. The equivalent of the mind in the Dantian in the head, so the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. So I find that really useful because I can sort of keep that going throughout the day. And so what we want to do is link them together so that they're always both operating. So if I put my tongue on the roof of my mouth, then it will also bring me into the Dantian. You know, John had those 10 coordinations. So the sacrum really is the equivalent of the back of the skull. And so mind in the Dantian and tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth are sort of equivalents. When I bring my belly in, it gets this sort of roll in the sacral area, lengthening and stretching the lower back, and the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, I want that to get this circuit going in the head, which is stretching the cervical spine. And just bringing this sense of humility, this sense of sort of looking down. So my head is cowering almost and looking down, but this is actually thrusting up into the world. Like you're fucking it all the time. You're just sticking your dick in it all the time. That's the feeling. So this is really rolling under. But I want it not just to roll under itself, but to roll under my feet. So this feeling that my posture is encouraging energy to rise out of the ground in front of me. A sense of inward. So Carl Jung had those two concepts, those two words that he coined, introvert and extrovert. So the vert part, the vertere, it's Latin to turn, so turning inward or turning outward. So what we want is a mind that turns inward, an introverted mind, a mind that's in and under some sort of control, almost a prisoner, and an extrovert heart, a heart that is turning outward all the time. So mind in Dantian is very much like a singular thing. Is, you know, I've got one Dantian. and it's just there. So I don't want to be locked into that singularity. I want full and empty to also open up, because without that, I won't be able to move. So here I'm sinking into this leg and it's filling, and this leg is emptying. So I start off by just anchoring my mind in the dantian and in the roof of the mouth. So the tip of the tongue and the roof of the mouth, the tongue is trying to push into this point in the brain, in the midbrain. So it's just pointing at that point. So I have that. That's my base, if you like, my foundation. And then I can move. And as I move, I want to just really allow the full and the empty to separate. So as this leg is filling, which it has to do to hold my weight, this leg can just open up and empty. You can feel it as two flows, like a flow of fullness in this direction and a flow of emptiness in that direction. So the fullness accompanying my body. You can also feel it as like a contraction. So the full leg is contracting in order to bring some strength into it, and the empty leg is just expanding and letting go. So this is like a coming together, and this is an expansion. So again, it's breathing. The legs are breathing. This is like breathing in, like the reverse breathing, becoming strong and dense. And this is the breathing out. So I want a mind that can just let this happen. It can allow the breathing in and the breathing out to happen at the same time in the body. So one part of my mind is holding on and being strong, and the other half is just letting go. This is what's difficult, really. It's not really sequential anymore. It's happening at the same time. And I have to really let go across the sacrum. So this is why the pulling in the dantian, mind in that, so this feeling of funneling in here in order to spread the back is so important. So this sense that my inwardness, my introversion, is actually emanating my energy into the world. So it's my mind that's turning inward so that my energy can be released. I'm trying to get rid of the lordosis in the lower back, the curvature in the lower back. so that my spine can just merge seamlessly with my legs. So I'm trying to just get rid of the break, the conceptual, the mental, and the physical break that we put here to protect ourselves from the draining action of the ground. So if you let it, the ground will just suck all of that silliness in the head out of you. And now just feeling the dantian, so feeling its real sort of physical presence. It's a center of real density. It's my center of gravity. It's heavy. And then just turn around it. So I need that strong centripetal draw here, because as soon as I turn, when I look at it, and I'm honest, as I can be, then the change of view, the fact that my eyes are just sweeping through the world and always coming onto something new, there's an emotional effect to that. There's something in the heart that lifts, almost in anticipation. So I need the draw here to keep me together so that I can respond emotionally to the world. Just get the hands going a little bit. If I can stay really sunk with my heavy dantian and go really quick, then the arms would just rise. The quicker I go, the more the relaxed arms would rise. And that would really give the sense that my heart is just spraying outwards. I always think of, the image in the Bible of the sower sowing seeds, he put his hand in the bag and just cast it out. This sense that you're casting good energy. Feeling it in the heart, it feels good. So my physical turning is assisting the introversion of the belly and the extroversion of the heart. So just maintain that clean sweep with the eyes. Nothing is clinging to you. There's this fairy dust that's just flying off you as you turn. Okay, so now let's just bring it to riding horse. This is just coming in. My sacrum is just relaxing down and under because of its natural shape. The tip of the tongue is driving up on the roof of my mouth, making me really feel this point inside. And that similarly has a feeling of curling inward so that this can open outward. Feel the circle of the legs. So the Dan Chen, if you like, is sitting on top of that circle. I don't want to be extreme in the sense of losing balance. So what I want is this draw into the singularity of my Dan Chen to also be the cause of this swelling into the circumference or the periphery. Like an elastic tightness. There's nothing hard or brittle about it. And that is just allowing this expansion. And that feels very much like it's coming from the sacrum. The sacrum is just expanding out and embracing my legs. The same with the arms. So now let's just feel the arms. So here you've got the circle here. And then the heart is like the back of this circle, the same as the Dan Chen was the top of this circle. So the more I bring my mind into the heart, the more the back heart emanates down the arms. And then the same thing here. So the more this point draws into itself, like the monk who draws up his cowl, hiding his face in order to go inward and pray. And then he'll bring his cowl back in order to do his study of the scriptures, which is more of an outward thing. So this sense that you're drawing in here, but that is actually producing this cowl, this hood. So my mind is quiet, settled, and centered, so that my energy can venture out, my spirit. So what is it that motivates the action? It's not a mind that's making choices. It's the energy that's leading. This is what we want. So now let's just try this one where we just do the circle. So we've circled on the horizontal plane, doing this exercise, and now just feeling this center and this sense that you're going to produce circles on this plane. We want the energy to lead. Something in me has started this exercise, not with a commanding, controlling mind, but something in me has let go so that this movement can be drawn out of me. That's the feeling. You know, like in the Catholic Church, you know, they say that when you decide to pray, you've actually heeded the call to prayer, because God is always calling you to pray. So it's not your decision to pray. It's something that's, it's what you have decided to do is listen. So that's the sense here, that it's my listening that is drawing this movement out of me. Feel the feeling, feel the emotion. As John would say, if it doesn't make you weep, then you're not doing it right. So there's just a sense of rawness, prayers and tears. So in a sense, the most difficult thing is letting your energy out. We're so used to using force with the mind. Just stop and just let this energy just take you. And then just changing direction. So just try and appreciate where the movement should come from, even if it doesn't. It should come from the heart. So this is the turn that John made when we moved to Blakeney. A move from spirit to heart. It was no longer the sharp, fiery spirit that was uprooting the other person. It was the openness in your heart, which required a very different quality of connection. And then just winding it down. Back to riding horse. So I can only effectively let my energy out if my mind is quiet and settled and my spirit is a little bit active. So most people do things from their mind. And so what they end up using is force rather than energy. Consequently, their actions are sort of coarse, crude, lack finesse and sensitivity. You know, a really sensitive person will just really shrink from the use of force, the same as nature does. Funneling in here. So all the centers are drawing in, and it's the back of the centers that are actually emanating into the world. Holding here enables the legs to just release from the sacrum. So ultimately, we would like mind in Danqian to involve no tension whatsoever. It's just still. So a still mind is actually really, it's got a lot of physicality to it, a lot of sort of heaviness. And so we do these exercises of tensing the areas just to sort of bring some feeling to them. But ideally, it's just my quiet, bloody mind, my bloody mindedness that's just settled here like a stone. So all of these centers are like stones. And now just feeling the curve of the spine, just this gentle curve that is effectively the back of a large ball, and then the curve in the back, in the legs, which is the front of a smaller ball. And I just want to get that point where the spine and the legs touch to be just this place with no break. So my spine is just joining the curve of my legs. And as my legs come up, they just join the spine. In this this beautiful figure of 8. And just really feeling the ground. There's something that you can just let go, ooh, and then suddenly the ground can really start sucking at your foot. It's almost like the foot gets a bit more surface area on the ground. So that's what we want to let go of. We sort of, something in us shrinks from the ground. We pull something up in order to keep that break. If I can just let that go. So I am passing across the sole of the foot and into the ground. And that is stimulating the ground to grow up my legs, especially under here. Just going backwards and forwards. So full and empty again. Filling up the back leg, which allows the front leg to just let go. Filling up the front leg, which allows the back leg to let go. But it's never quite as clear with the front leg because you can't get all your weight into it. Now here, you can really just let this flush out. So we want a similar feeling here. My body is flowing forwards, but my energy, my emptiness is flowing backwards. And then here my fullness is flowing back and my emptiness can release out here. Feeling the difference between full and empty, the qualitative difference. So the fullness has this sort of holding onness and is this limited sort of all coming together sort of feeling into strength. And then the emptiness just has this feeling of just releasing out and expanding, but also this sense that something is becoming active. My spirit is waking up a little bit in this side of my body. And it's that actually starts the movement. The movement starts in the empty side. So this is emptying, something comes alive, and that calls me, and I get drawn towards it. So here this releases, it's like there's like a butterfly that wakes up. I get drawn towards it. So this is the spirit. So the spirit doesn't make you do something. It can't do that. What it does, it calls you. It calls you into action. So you have to be just awake enough to just heed that call. when you heed the call of spirit, it's the best part of you that's being activated. There's something in my emptiness calls, and I just feel it. Try a little bit on the other foot. I'm in the back leg. I just release here. And it's like releasing a little bird or a butterfly. Something in me lets go and something just flutters out, and I get drawn towards it. And then here, yeah, this is going backwards is actually interesting because you really are going into the darkness. So I've got to sense that butterfly without being able to see it. There's a real sense of lingering. It's almost like you're trying your best just to delay the movement until you just can't bear that draw anymore, until your heartstrings are being so tugged that you just have to move. Just notice how as soon as your mind wanders, you just slot into automatic and the energy completely disappears. Yeah, so the mind is capable of producing a passable copy, but that's all. Okay, so let's just bring it back to riding horse. Let's just breathe it. If you're doing it the normal breathing way, so breathing out here, then you can feel how this phase is just a bit too much. It's just becomes a bit too top heavy as I breathe in here. So this is why, the reverse breathing is always preferable. So let's just try the reverse breathing. So breathe out here and then breathe in. So I'm really building up the internal pressure. And then here, this is just the out breath that expands. So this is the emptying phase, and then this is the filling phase. So again, it's full and empty, breathing in, breathing out. Get it to become this exercise, the two circles. So your front is yielding and your back is attacking. So this is coming in here, but this is coming out, but it's coming out from my spine. So the hand that comes in is taking this imaginary energy down through this point and into the ground. So I'm yielding into my inguinal fold. So there's a sense of almost like a hole opening up here. So I don't want to get too folded here. I want to turn, but be pushing myself back with this leg a little bit so that this hole can open up, like a wide hole can open up. And then just letting it become the figure of 8. So now, as well as this hand going down through this hole, this hand is coming in as well. So the inside hand, so this hand is coming into this point. So the two hands are sort of together. So the two hands are together, but at any moment they could sort of branch off and go back into the two circles exercise. And then just let it become waving hands in the clouds. So this hand is coming down and in here, and this hand is coming up. So I'm holding the ball. So the hand that comes up is really just caught like this thermal, like there's sort of energy rising from the ground, and the hand is being lifted by that. So again, I have a balance between the heaviness here that's trying to find the earth and the lightness here that's going up. And it's all possible because my mind is so localized in the Dantian that it's allowed the joints of the sacrum, so the sacroiliac joints, the lumbar spine, the hips, for them all to spring open. It's like a really precarious balance. So to me, to sustain that without toppling and collapsing, you need that mind that is just so quiet and settled in the middle of it. Yeah, so when you get into spirit, you just start to appreciate that actually everything is calling you. You walk down the street, the people you pass are calling you, the cats, especially around here, the flowers, the sky, the earth, everything's calling you. And so you need that strong center just to keep yourself together. Otherwise, the world of spirit would just tear you apart. And of course, we protect ourselves from that by just cutting off from it. So just not really living a life that's been planned and designed and controlled by the mind. So that phrase of Jack Caputo's, God does not exist. God insists. God is a solicitation. God is a call. And he says it's when we listen to that That's when God exists. We create God by listening and responding to the call. Bring it back to riding horse. So I was off last week because someone came from England to stay with me. She was a student in the first class that I taught in Hackney. So she did Tai Chi, and then she did Qigong, and then Kundalini Yoga, until she got disillusioned with Yogi Bhajan's sexual exploits. But she was saying her Qigong teacher, if ever anyone sort of asked some sort of technical question or had a problem, he'd always just say, the same as the meditation masters would say, just sit and you'll find out for yourself. He would just say horse posture. And when they said, but I already do that, he says, well, a deeper horse posture. So this is like the Qigong panacea. And it's so strong. And I mean, this is for me what these Zoom sessions have been useful for me, because they've forced me to stand in this damn posture. You just take up the correct shape with these legs that are emanating from this sacrum, rather than legs that are underneath you, cutting you off from the ground. So this sense that my legs are I'm wanting to hug all the time. Imagine you're just a really loving person. But just like you just want to hug everyone you see. That's the feeling with the legs. The legs are just wanting to hug the ground. So the legs want to bring you down to the ground. They're not fearfully keeping you away from it. Now, of course, they have to become damn strong to manage that. The people that do it best are the sumo guys. They spend 2.5 hours every day in basically thighs parallel to the ground, deep posture. And imagine doing that when you're sort of 100 kilos overweight. I'm being drawn down. I'm responding to the call of the earth. Here I am, sort of 3 floors up. And yet the earth is still there beneath me, because the earth is just reaching up through the building, the same way it reaches up through trees and through us if we let it. So imagine that earth, it's reaching up through this plant, and suddenly it just blooms into this beauty, this flower. So that's just earth energy. That's just earth energy that's coming out of that flower. So it's just, flowers are like miracles. They just give. And of course, the energy is coming from the ground and the sun. This working combination of heaven and earth. Okay, now let's just try just a bit of just bringing the leg up. Yeah, so all of these exercises are important, but this is particularly important. So let's just first of all just try this exercise, where we, like the second warm-up exercise. The sense that my leg has cut under the ground and lifted up. Yeah, so I have to be really careful that my knee doesn't collapse in as I turn. So my knee is traveling in that direction all the time, so that the curvature of the leg can just continue under the ground. Yeah, so this is the sense when we want to lift a foot off the ground, there's the feeling that the other leg has actually got underneath it. So this leg has come down and under, and that has enabled this foot to come up. I have to really release here and in the sacroiliac so that this can just stay open. John would always say, don't let the back knee collapse inwards. It's just that, really. So you don't want the back knee to collapse inwards, especially when you're in it. So this is where the openness in the groin is just so important. If you tried doing this without it, you just wouldn't be able to turn at all, really. Feel the sacrum. It's like a strong arm comes out of the side of the sacrum and down the leg. Bringing the foot up, but it's the same thing, really. This feeling that the leg is doing this, so my foot comes up. 1, 2, 3, but there's a real sense that the other foot that's on the ground has sent something up, which has allowed this foot to lift. So 1, 2, 3. So something in me has to really open up in order to take a big mouthful. It's like, something in me has to really swallow that ground underneath this foot. Otherwise, I just won't be able to get into the leg properly. This will be wanting to collapse in all the time like this. I have to keep it out. And what we can do is use the leg that's coming up, just rest it on this leg. So I rest it on the calf here. And then I bring it up to the knee. And then I just bring it slightly above the knee. So with those 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I want that feeling on the last one, when my knee rises, my lumbar spine just curves the other way. It just curves like that. Completely loses its lordosis. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. Dan Chen, really drawing in. Pull your heel into your groin. So the foot becomes pretty much in the same place it would be if you were sitting down cross-legged. You're sort of using the spirit to turn yourself into a different shape. It's like you're really sort of out like this, becoming animal. Bring it back. So there's this subtle rotation here, and there's the equivalent one here. So the sense that the more I can localize the mind, draw it in to here, the bigger I become energetically, the more I'm expanding into the world. And then just bringing it up. Head suspended. Feel it like you've got like a hook, like a meat hook that's hauling you up from the back of the skull. stretching the neck, and that's allowing the sacrum to just hang heavily, stretching out the lower back. Relaxing the legs to the right at that point of almost collapsing. So the legs always a little bit bent. And that just allows sinking, that allows that drain through the body. So if you're not sinking into the earth, then the earth can't rise up into you. There's a gap. Feeling the feet really spreading. And just something in you can just let go, and suddenly the foot's really stuck on the ground. Tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth. So just try and make that permanent.